All right, guys, welcome to the next episode of this podcast. So today we're going to talk about a cult classic player, somebody who NBA fans and shoe fans definitely respect and love, and that's Gary Payton.
Not Oliver Miller?
Senior. Gary Payton.
Not Oliver Miller.
Not Oliver Miller.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here today with Bijan, and we want to show love to one of the all-time great point guards in NBA history. In my opinion, the greatest defensive point guard in NBA history, a guy that is from Cali, Northern California. You know, when you talk about work ethic, talk about like an underdog, scrawny kind of guy, lanky, slim, Oregon State, and
Trash talker.
And he came in 1990, number 2 pick, and he came in and he wanted to bring that blue collar work ethic, and that's Gary Payton, GP20. Let's also say Adam Silver or whoever is in Manhattan who makes the decisions. They have to bring back the Seattle Supersonics. But for me personally,
For Derek and
yeah, absolutely. For Team Fourth Quarter, TFQ 206, and all of our friends, in the Pacific Northwest, like, yeah, they deserve and need their team back. But we wanted to do, Bijan and I wanted to do something to commemorate and honor Gary Payton, arguably the greatest behind Michael Jordan as a trash talker. Reggie Miller's a distant third. But the sneaker history of Gary Payton, particularly his player sample mock-ups, that's GOAT level.
Yeah, he's up there. Nike made him some good stuff.
Some great stuff.
Absolutely.
Some underrated stuff too that unless you're like in the inner circle, you may not know about. And that is where, as the Ghostbusters said, that is where we come in.
So we're going to look at some of the shoes he wore before signatures. We're going to look at some of the shoes. This is not an exhaustive list, but we're going to go through his line and then some of the stuff that he wore after his line.
Nice. That sounds great. So we'll do chronological order, right?
Let's just go in order of when he wore it. And again, we can do a deep dive later on each of these models. This is more about Payton than each model individually.
Payton history. So to start this one off, like I said, earlier, kind of against the grain, we're going to start with something that most people don't really know about, let alone talk about, unless you're an older head and are a tennis fan, because this model, interestingly, is not intended or meant for basketball. This is a tennis model. This is the 1995-96 Nike Air Alarm, designed by Wilson Smith, worn by Andre Agassi. It's an Agassi tennis model. So what is it doing in a Gary Payton basketball video? Well, if you look closely, this is Seattle Supersonic colorway, and it's got the pine green, the forest green colorway that matches the jacket kind of thing. So in short, there was a home game played at Key Arena in Seattle. I think it was November 25th or something like that in 1995. And in 95, it was a home game against the Chicago Bulls. It was actually one of the 10 losses that the Bulls had that year. That year, Seattle was number 1 in the Western Conference. They owned Key Arena. Like, you would not, if you were a road team, even the Bulls, like, you're not winning in Seattle. And Gary wore the Air Alarm, this model, in that game. And I posted that before on my Instagram page, but this is a very interesting model. You can hold it, yeah. Never been retroed. I do own a sample retro that was created by Nike a couple of years ago, and they pulled the plug. But this is the only instance that, at least I'm aware of, that only game in which Gary wore this particular model. So
there was only one game? I didn't realize that.
That is my understanding, is that that's the only instance in which, in fact, to go a step further, there is a trading card, upper deck, of Gary wearing the Air Alarm, and you could see Gary in the background of that upper deck card. I think it's a Jordan upper deck card, but if you look closely, you could see Gary in the mid court, and he's wearing the air alarm. Kind of cool. I posted that too. So really interesting, obscure part of Gary Payton sneaker history.
But also
Yeah.
there's crossover though. You know, the tennis shoe and the basketball shoe, there's crossover. You know, you can use them for either. And Stockton wore some tennis models. Peyton wasn't the only one that wore tennis models in games, as you know.
Mhm.
And this is one of my probably top three tennis shoe for me all time. I love the alarm. I think it's a perfect name, a perfect shoe. And then the way the bands have the slant to them to the medial side, I think it's a great design.
Mm,
One of my favorites from Wilson Smith by a
mm.
mile. And also a shoe that I don't own that I would like to get.
Wait a minute. I thought you owned the white and blue
Well, no,
colorway.
this one, the
The
pine green.
Seattle colorway. Got it.
Pine
Got it.
green.
Got it. Very nice. So, when you think about rolling out, Gary Payton history, this is certainly not going to be the model that most, if anyone, would start
Mhm.
with, but it is a small part of Payton history. We're doing it chronologically, and this is the oldest pair that we have to start with for
I
now.
think
So,
among people that were into shoes, especially in the old days, like we knew about this. Like we knew Peyton wore the alarm. That was
mm,
something that was big in the shoe world, especially in the tennis world. So I do think it's very relevant. But there's another mid '90s shoe that he wore often, which we didn't bring. That's LWP.
uh-huh. Right?
He had a PE version, white, black, green, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's a shoe that he wore also in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have another one sitting next to you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a look and see, since we're going in chronological order here. So let's go. So we're talking like 95, 96. So we're going to go 97 All-Star game. So most probably know, but for those who don't know, this is the Turbulence Flight, the Nike Air Turbulence Flight. I've talked about this before. It's one of the greatest takedown models in history. Gary is really interesting because he wore signature top line, fully loaded Zoom Air models, but at the same coin and token, he wore takedowns
Yeah.
too. He showed
Throw
love.
flight. He wore a throw flight too, right?
Yep, I didn't bring that pair, but yep, in fact, that was the pair that he wore in the 96 finals with number 20
Mhm.
stitched on the tongue. But this is the Turbulence Flight, Aaron Cooper design. This is a classic. It has not come back. It probably never will, but it should. Of course, real historians and others will know this is the Air Bubba Chuck. What could have been, should have been perhaps, but this was slated, intended for Iverson, which, and we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, just a very beautiful silhouette. It has a little bit of the Air Jordan 11 aesthetic with the patent leather on the toe box, the lateral wing. You see that very often in the 96, 97 catalog. Air Penny 2, for example, had the winged flight. Other takedowns, they started using that. That aesthetic. So you see that here. So Gary wore the Turbulence Flight in a handful of games in a different colorway. It was more of like a emerald green. I don't have that particular colorway in my collection. So I own one pair of Miami Heat black and red. I've posted them a couple times. That's a colorway. I don't know if it was an Asian exclusive or what, but I love the Miami Heat. It's one of my favorite basketball teams in the 90s. That's my favorite colorway. This would probably be my number two.
I like the navy one, Navy Carolina. That's a hard one to find too.
Yep. Some of them are harder to find than others. They're out there, but in terms of size, condition, that can make it more difficult to locate and source. But like I said, this is an earlier, actually, you know what? Let me rephrase. So this is in the middle part of his career. So he came in 90. We think Flight Light.
Mhm.
Yeah, Gary really showed love to the Flight series early on. He is the
He's
embodiment.
the flight person, you would
Yep.
imagine, right?
Yeah, he embodies flight. He ran that flight. It was like, poetry in motion, very nimble, very acrobatic. I believe he led the league multiple years in steals.
Yeah.
I mean, he read those passing lanes and the sneakers that he wore. Although Aaron Cooper likes to say that he didn't design sneakers, more of like an instrument or a tool, but they served the athlete, and in this case, Gary Payton, very, very well. So we started with the alarm.
Well, it's one thing about the Turbulence in my memory.
Mhm,
It's kind of a funny story for the people that grew up with me. When I was in middle school, there was a kid that had these, and we were playing basketball, and the ball got stuck between the backboard and the rim.
mhm,
And how do you get it down, right? If you're not tall enough, which none of us were, so we threw
mhm,
our shoes. So,
mhm.
so my buddy who had these, actually, he didn't even do it. Someone took his shoe and did it. Threw the shoe, and then it went on the roof, and the janitor had to go try and get his shoe. He was walking around with no shoes for the rest
Oh,
of the day.
man.
So yeah, so every
Mm,
time I see the Turbulence, that's the
yeah,
first thought I have with them.
nice.
Anyway,
And, really, really quick, very interesting 4-foot tread,
yeah,
you know,
Zoom Fly
very
5.
aggressive. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of where the takedown aesthetic comes into play. But very aggressive model, 3M hits, of course, just very well executed, of course, by Aaron Cooper, one of the great Nike designers and designers, you know, not just of Nike, but across brands and such. But the point is very futuristic looking, very aggressive looking. It kind of, in a way, I don't want to say like a Rolls Royce, but maybe like an Aston Martin at profile. Just very aggressive, nice looking aesthetic model, very lightweight, basic tech, but it served Gary very well in the '97 All Star game.
Yeah, and I
Incredible.
love the waving on the midsole, sort of the layers. That's my favorite part of the shoe.
Nice.
Okay, so then Gary gets into the signature world, right? Or signature adjacent.
Yeah, in fact, some would say uh, that the Air Zoom Flight glove is a Gary Payton signature. Now, that's an interesting debate in terms of whether or not if a model does not have the player's name, can you still coin it as a signature?
I mean, his nickname was the glove, though. So I thought,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect sense that it's his shoe.
So let's go ahead and well, if we're gonna go chronologic. So I'm gonna let Bijan hold this pair since we're doing original and moving forward. So this is a very unique model. I'm at a loss for words really. So when we talk about signatures or top tier, models. This is the Air Zoom Glove Flight, Air Zoom Flight. It is the follow up to, of course, another Eric Avar, the Air Zoom Flight, with the bug eye look. So this is kind of like the sequel, also the Air Zoom Flight, but very, very different, of course. Absolutely loaded with tech. You see, of course, the completely concealed covering, of course. Um, but what sets this apart from other releases, and we'll get to a couple of others, is you see the green midsole, you see the custom stitching. This was a sample that was made for Gary, but interestingly, it was not ever worn by Gary on court. And if you're going to ask me, what is like the rarest pair in my collection, I would I would dare to say that this is probably one of
Yeah,
the top.
it's definitely up there.
So features again the exoskeleton, the monkey paw. You can kind of see the outline here. Very well made carbon fiber plate. Again, this is classic mid '90s, mid to late '90s basketball. Zoom Air, fully loaded, and it's the model, at least in my opinion, and I think in the general consensus, that when you think of Gary, this is it. 1998 All Star year, of course. I believe he was with Vin Baker at the time in Seattle. By the way, Seattle versus the Lakers in the playoffs. I think it was the '98 playoffs. But the point is, like, he was running on all cylinders. Gary was consistently, along with John Stockton, Jason Kidd, right up there at the top of the echelon for '90s point guards. And this model is like forever associated or synced with Gary. So I wanted to bring this up, and
Let's bring all the gloves.
yeah. So you want to bring up a couple
Yeah, let's bring
others,
all
and
the
that
gloves
way.
out. We'll go over them. Just a bunch of random ones we had laying around, basically. So again, this is not exhaustive of what we want to bring, but this is a good representation within the purview of being a Gary Payton talk. So the glove is an amazing shoe. A lot of tech in it, like Seth has been saying. And then the one thing he hasn't mentioned, this is called the glove, and the shoe is literally a glove, right? So there's an outside and an inside. The inside is the monkey paw, which is something we always talk about. Somehow it always comes up. But underneath that is underneath the outside is this monkey paw. You could wear it up, you could wear them down. I mean, when I used to wear these, I used to flip them, but yeah, this is just an incredible shoe. These were real popular. This was not a shoe that was only for people playing basketball. People wore these off the court probably as long as I can remember. Not just when they were OGs, but also a lot of retros. This is a retro pair in a Miami kind of color to pay homage to Payton's time in Miami. And then this is another colorway, an awesome colorway made by Soul Collector. It was actually Nick DiPaolo that did most of the colorway, from what I understand. Amazing details, almost like player exclusive branding with the GP and the 20 on them. Signature on the tongue top here. And again, there's always something underneath it, right? The glove, you unzip it, and there's a Soul Collector logo on the tongue with kind of a rugged, not suede, but like a nylon type material. And the monkey paw, again, everything on this shoe is well thought out. It's not just one color, it's got a fade to it, like a gradient from green to yellow. So this is an incredible shoe. Apparently Gentry was involved in these also.
Oh, nice.
In some of the execution of it and some picking of the colors on the midsoles and stuff. So Gentry, I thought, did a fantastic job in his tenure with Nike. That's another that's another conversation. But yeah, this shoe is an amazingly well done shoe. It's true to Seattle. It's true to Gary Payton. It's true to Soul Collector. It's true to player exclusives in that time. So this is an extremely well executed aesthetic model. It's not very comfortable, I'll tell you that.
Interesting. I've actually never played it, in the original, and I've never worn any of my. I own 2 pairs of the Soul Collector. I bought them. I think it was at a Foot Locker at the Beverly Center in 2013. I think is when it dropped. So what I was going to say is that if I recall, in Slam Presents Kicks Volume 1, there is a picture of Eric Avar, and he's smiling. He's in his desk at Nike headquarters in Beaverton, and on his feet is a pair of white and black Air Zoom Flight, and I believe it had the number like 14 or something on the medial aspect. And I had the pleasure, very briefly, but I had the pleasure of meeting Eric at DNA a couple years ago. And I met him. He was literally going straight from DNA to the airport back to New York. And I was able to get one question in with him after he finished his recording with the team there. And I asked him about that particular pair because I have a near photographic memory, and I remembered that. And he didn't really give a clear answer on the stitching or the number, but my understanding is that it was probably either a player sample, but nonetheless, this is a very deep-rooted, beloved model. I brought a couple of retro PEs from Gary's championship season in Miami, so these are very important in terms of Gary Payton's sneaker history. As a nod to his career, because he won the championship in Miami. He should have won it in Seattle, but that's another story for another time. And then this is my latest Gary Payton PE pickup. Just a beautiful home pair that he wore on Christmas Day. This pair is dead stock, but he wore the exact same colorway, white with the Miami Heat orange and red. The thing about PEs, they are made very high quality leather stitching, materials. Weight and feel is also different compared to the GRs. So when you really get into collecting, there's levels of collecting, and there's a huge GP community. And Bijan and I both share a common love for Gary, and we just wanted to, introduce the followers to a few, a handful. There are many others. GP's been blessed. He's got one of the greatest PE sneaker games ever created.
Yeah, and this was also a Miami year one, so this was kind of in that same echelon. Black and red, kind of a simple colorway, but a new logo, right? This logo is not something we see too often on Gary stuff. It was mostly these gloves, really, that I can remember that had them. This series of gloves. So kind of an experimental logo, maybe we'll call it that.
Yeah.
But yeah, another cool one. And I think I know why number 14 is on there for the shoe that you're talking about.
Olympics, I think, is that
Olympics,
yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
And interestingly, if we compare your pair it's the right shoe, and it has the GP stitching, whereas the other models, PEs, have his number
Mhm.
on the right. So interestingly, no rhyme or reason. Maybe it depends on the year, but there are so many subtleties. That's what makes PE collecting really cool, really interesting. Unfortunately, it can get very expensive, but sometimes you get lucky. Gary is really interesting, and you and I were talking about that earlier. There's different levels and tiers. Gary holds a very special place in my heart, and he's one of my all-time favorite basketball players and athletes in general. I would love to meet the man one day. I have a lot of respect for him. Like I said, his work ethic, very talented guy. He was committed on the defensive end, very committed, defensive player of the year. I think he was the last guard after Jordan to win defensive. 6'3", 6'4" ish, but wouldn't back down. You know what I'm saying? And his fire, his personality was expressed in the kicks. The kicks are part of the ensemble, the repertoire. And I don't know, I wasn't into Gary Payton kicks years ago, when I first started out, or even a few years in. Within the last decade or so, I started to develop a focus on a couple of guys, and one of them is Gary.
Yeah.
So anyway, one time for the glove, and wanted to bring and give a shout out to Gary and show some of our collection that we've sourced over time. So,
So after the glove, he got his first shoe that had his name, right? That's the Zoom
yes,
GP.
yeah. So I own a couple pairs. In fact, for a minute, I was ready to wrap it up, and I totally forgot we've got one more or so,
On your
right?
side.
Yeah. So this is another Eric Avar classic. This is the '99 Nike Air Zoom GP, and just a very interesting asymmetrical. Like in terms of if you paid attention in geometry class, this would definitely stand out as like a geometric wonder. It's asymmetrical, part of the Alpha Project line, completely loaded with tech. As Byron Ready War, great, huge
Incredible guy.
GP fan and collector from Seattle. He once said to me something like, "It's Ratchet, but without the hood rat." So this model, Zoom Air, of course, carbon fiber when it was actually thick,
Yeah.
carbon fiber. Um, but it has the ratchet lockdown system. So the thing about Gary is, when you're a guard, defensive stance, fast cuts, you need lockdown support and stability. So the ratchet lockdown system gave him that. But the thing about Gary, and this is actually one of my grails that I do not own yet, but this is a GR version. But Gary's player sample, and there are a couple people out there who own Gary's actual, PE pair of this model. It had a special shroud
Yeah.
cover that completely covered the ratchet lockdown, system here.
And that was because the NBA forced that, right?
I believe so. I think it had
For
to do something with injury
injury concern.
prevention. Yeah. That's so cool, like the minutia.
And most
Um,
of them have a stitching on it too.
mhm.
They'll say 20 or GP.
Yeah. So, in fact, there's a trading card. I think it was against the Sixers. I'm a huge Sixers fan first, but I can't remember if it was Aaron McKee that was on the card, but it was Gary, and he was driving. I think it was against Aaron McKee, and you could see the black and green Zoom GP with the custom, cover, ratchet cover with 20 on it, or it was either GP or 20.
Yeah, and we
So,
don't really give the credit to this shoe as much with the iridescent side panels. The PEs had it also, but it's kind of a nice detail. It has a shimmer almost to it. It's an incredible shoe. Monkey paws in there hidden, right? But like as you wear the shoe, you can see the monkey paw more. It's almost like a distress look because it rubs on stuff. So that's another cool thing. Whether that's intentional or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, this is a great shoe with great colors. The black and Volt was like my favorite one, the neon pair. But yeah, great shoe, amazing shoe. So
I
that's
own
the GP1.
Yes, absolutely, and I own a couple pairs of this particular model, multiple colorways released. They did a retro, of course, with different, um, materials, and it looks pretty similar to the original, but as we always say, as there's a saying, nothing compares or beats to the OG. Um, there was a really, really cool, uh commercial with Gary Payton against I believe was it not Mayweather? I'm drawing a blank of the boxer. Evander. I think it was Evander, in which they're in a boxing ring. This was 1999. Really, really cool in a boxing ring, and Gary is wearing the black and neon. I own one pair of the black and neon. That colorway is not retro. I don't know if it ever will.
A little hint of red.
Yep. And Gary is dribbling the basketball and he's crossing over and he gets the TKO. It's kind of really, really cool. There was a few commercials that Nike made with Gary around that model to push. It was a very popular model. It did very well on the court. Very, again, futuristic, and anything with Alpha Project, you're getting the very best.
I was going to bring that up. When you see the 5 dots, like, that a lot of thought was put into that shoe. And that's across all genres because it wasn't just basketball, obviously. So after the GP1 comes the GP2. So these are 2 cool versions of that. So this number 14 on the side is the reason why I said I think that's the reason why the glove sample out of 14. That's what Gary wore in the Olympics, as evidenced by this pair. This is the GP2 Sydney Olympics 2000 stitching on the medial side. This pair has traveled all around the world. So it's kind of a funny story. Obviously, like most samples, it was made in Asia. Then it made its way back to the US. A friend of mine bought these. We actually did it in a package deal where he found a seller that had a few pairs that he wanted. He wanted this pair, and he found the deal. So, like, obviously, that's on you. Go ahead, buddy. And then I'm just happy to be here. So the guy had some other pairs that I got from him. But eventually, my friend sold the pair to a buyer in China. And I don't know how many times they switched hands over there, but I found the person who had them, and we'll call it rescued them, brought them back home. It's an Olympic pair for the U.S. So yeah, this is the GP2 designed by Aaron Cooper. Incredible colorway. The uppers on these are like a pearlescent, iridescent type look, similar to the GP1. So they kind of carried that over on some of the aesthetics here. It's very hard to see, but this colorway was not a GR. This colorway, and this is a sample version of the GP2, is very similar to the one that released, but this is blue. It's called dark blue. That's all, dark blue chrome. That's what we call the colorway. But this version of the dark blue is a little lighter than the one that released. It was more navy on the actual release. So there's not too much different here other than the quality of the materials and the fact that it is a sample and has that history attached to it. To me, the GP2 is a great shoe. It's not as great as the GP1 or the glove, but it is a great shoe, and it's actually a pretty comfortable shoe. So
that's beautiful, man. As Lebowski once said, the Big Lebowski, I'm out of my element. This is actually a model that I do not have, so it's a real blessing to be able to see these rare relics. I mean, like, again, custom made, sample tagging, Fengte. I mean, saved through time, preserved through time. And you said Aaron Cooper. This is one of Aaron's designs, one of many. That's great. Yeah, no, very, very nice. I love the detailing. It's all about the detailing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool because they say the glove on across a lot of his models, actually, including the PEs. One shoe will say the other one will say glove. So they did that on this Zoom GP2 also. And there's a lot of PE versions of this also. So after the 2, obviously after the 2 comes the 3. So this is a really cool model of GP's third model, the GP3. So this is a sample version. This colorway did come out, but it didn't come out with this kind of PE branding on it. You can see GP on the outer side. And then if you look closely at the tongue tabs, it says the glove in cursive. So that was certainly not on the release. So this is basically a sample of the PE version, which is my favorite thing. I love a sample of a sample. So yeah, this is right up my alley. Sample tagging on there. Really a relic that it survived and is in pretty much pristine condition considering its age. The one thing I'll say about this shoe, this is a morph. Do you remember the morphs? So there's a shoe inside of a shoe. Do you remember the morphs?
Right. I think it's Scott. Also, so I think Scotty wore a particular model similar to
Kid, Payton, and Pippen had the same morph shoe on the inside, and then you could change the outside. That was the
Nice.
idea of it. It's called the morph.
Great concept too, yeah.
So it's like you're wearing 2 shoes. I don't know how great that is for the court. I've never actually had a pair of GP3s on my feet, so I can't talk about it.
Mm,
But it is a cool piece of history,
mhm.
and this version is certainly worth saving and caring about.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would say that's a cool pair to have.
And you see the Alpha Project branding as
And it's
well,
Alpha
so
Project, yeah, exactly,
they were ahead of their time at that for that collection, the Alpha Project collection in the late '90s, early 2000s. Yeah. A
absolutely.
lot of great quality products coming out. Nice.
So then
Mm,
Gary's career, when did he get traded? Got traded to Milwaukee, was it
yep.
first, and then from Milwaukee to the Lakers.
Yep. Mm,
So there's a particular shoe that I always wanted when it came to those Milwaukee days, and
mm,
I somehow got lucky enough to be able to get it.
mhm,
And that is the Ultra Flight Gary Payton player exclusive. One of them, he had a few of them. He had a really nice green and yellow one too that I'm still hunting. There's a guy in Germany that has them, but he
mm,
won't give them up. There's a few
mhm.
people out there.
Okay.
So this is the Ultra Flight Aaron Cooper shoe again. I believe Avar had some hands in it too.
Mm, mm,
But yeah, this is a very cool shoe. So apparently the Ultra Flight was, if I understand this right, I'm happy to be corrected. They wanted to design a shoe that was clear on the outside. So that was like the original concept and you could see through it. And on production of the Ultra Flight, that didn't happen. Most of them had a clear shell, but it wasn't fully clear. It was colored.
mhm,
So you can see this is a fully clear shell and you can see the bright purple underneath.
mm,
And then the green outrigger on the side, which is the Bucks colorway. So this is a really cool shoe. Great colorway. Again, purple is my favorite color, so I always hunt those
mm.
kinds of shoes. And then on the back, you'll see it says the glove. It has number 20 on the side, and it has Gary Payton's signature stitched, which is kind of a unusual thing. The Ultraflight itself had a lot of variations in the player exclusive branding. Some of them had the numbers in other places. There is a low top that exists that they made for Steve Nash, actually, maybe some other players. So that's a really cool version. And when you have one version, you got to have another
Mhm,
version. So although it's not Peyton, it is Sam Cassell's version with
mhm.
number 10. Same exact shoe, identical shoe, half size bigger, and with number 10 on the side. So that's a really cool little set
That's
that I was
great.
lucky enough
Mhm,
to put together.
mhm.
And then
Nice.
after that, he was a little bit of a journeyman in what he wore, but he picked up a sponsorship with Jordan Brand when he was with the
Mhm,
Lakers and with the Celtics afterward.
mhm,
So there's some good PEs. Is in that Jordan 19 time. So he had
mhm.
some really nice
Right.
white, purple, gold 19 mids that are really nice. He also had the 19 SE, and he had the
Yeah.
SE in Boston colors also. There's a lot of good Peyton PEs from
Mhm,
that time. This is probably my favorite of all that was made for him. So this is the Laker edition Jordan 12 made for Gary Payton, the away colors. There's a home color also, which was white and yellow, but it also had a yellow midsole. I like that, but I don't love it. The black pairs were the ones that I hunted and wanted and was lucky enough to get. One of them I got from a good friend of mine, Scott Purnell Sanders. He'll probably laugh when he hears this because
mhm.
it's a crazy story. It got lost in the mail. So this shoe got lost in the mail because there was an error in translation on the address, and it was
Mm,
in the old days when it wasn't digital. I've had
mhm,
these since I don't know 2005 or
mhm,
six.
mhm.
So they got mailed to the wrong to an address that didn't exist. So
Oh,
they ended
man.
up in some bunker in like Iowa or something crazy where all the lost United States Postal Service mail goes.
Mhm.
So I had to call this number every day until I could get on the phone with somebody for like a month, and then finally I got on somebody. They found the package and shipped it to the right place.
Wow.
Well, it's a crazy story how I got this one. Actually, I don't even remember where I got this at this point, but
Mhm.
the purple one stands out
Stands
because of
out.
that. So yeah, we go through
Nice.
crazy lengths to get shoes, and we're gonna do a whole episode on how we get shoes and
Mm,
some
mhm.
of the crazy stories. Maybe even a series on it. But essentially, these were my favorite Gary Payton shoes that were Jordans
Mm,
because he had some good
nice.
Jordans. So those are
Yeah.
my favorite Jordans.
Wow.
It's a good spread we got here.
Yeah, no, very encompassing across the whole gamut, and you could see the evolution of player sample, um, and, friends and family kind of vibe and, very high quality, and, a lot of people don't remember his small stint in Milwaukee, so these 2, although one was for Sam Cassell, of course, but, I mean, that very, very rare colorway,
Yeah,
only a
absolutely.
handful of games played there, um
Yeah, if I could have one ultra flight, if you ask me I don't know, 20 years ago or whenever these came out. If you could have one ultraflight, what would it be? It would have been this one. I
Mhm.
love this colorway.
They
I was
made a
very
black
happy.
one too, if I
Yeah,
recall.
he had a few of them.
Yeah.
He had a black one. Yeah, he also had the green and yellow one that I said clear yellow,
Mhm.
and clear. There was a clear green one too. So he had 4 or 5 variations on it. But yeah, this is my favorite one of them, and then it's cool that the Cassell one matches.
Nice. Yeah, perfect.
So
Well
yeah,
done. Nice. We're just checking one more thing. I'm noticing a little
yeah, one
difference
of them
here.
the tab broke
Yeah.
off.
Oh, what happened? I was like, oh, it's different.
I think it happened during shipping. So yeah,
It happens. It comes with the
aging.
territory. It's yeah.
As
Sure.
OG or bust Nick would say,
Sure.
sneaker crack, right? You
Yep.
can't avoid it.
Accept it. You can't. Yep. Got to accept it.
You got to lean into it.
Lean into. Yeah.
All right.
Sure. Nicely done. Well, I hope that you guys learned something new about Gary Payton, one of the greatest defensive point guards in history, one of the greatest sneaker games and player samples. I consider him very highly regarded. Um, definitely towards the upper tier of player samples. There's a huge cult, community, and we wanted to show a little bit of love to the glove. So thanks for joining, and
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, we got a lot planned for you guys. This is tip of the iceberg.
And bring back those Sonics.
Bring the Sonics back for sure, and bring back the great PEs. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.